Let's break it all down with our political panel. Chris Wilson, the former director of research, analytics, and digital strategy for the Ted Cruz presidential campaign, and Capri Cafaro, a former Democratic member of the Ohio State Senate and executive in residence in the School of Public Affairs at American University. Good to have both of you.
Absolutely. Good afternoon.
Okay, so we're going to give you a chance to say what's bad about it, but I want to start with what's good about the package. We'll start with you, Capri, and then Chris, you go.
Well, I mean, any time that you are dealing with the ability to make things more transparent in campaign finance, for example, making sure that 501c4 contributions, 501c4 is the IRS tax code for basically political advocacy. Right now, contributions to that don't have to be disclosed. Having to make that disclosed is good. Transparency is important when it comes to who is giving to campaigns and advocating for either an issue or a candidate. So I think that's a good thing. And certainly being able to give money, and we'll get into the issue about campaign finance and giving tax dollars in a second, but being able to support the states. As a former state legislator and a former minority leader, I can tell you that our individual boards of elections that have jurisdiction over facilitating elections are really up against it, don't have enough resources to do their job properly. So to have the federal government support their efforts helps protect the vote and helps enable those folks to do their job.
Interesting. Chris, what do you say?
Well, I couldn't disagree more. I mean, this bill should really be called the Politician Protection Act. The fact that Democrats think that there's public support for taking taxpayer dollars and paying for political elections is just remarkable to me.
I didn't say I supported that.
So hang on one second. Wait. No, guys. Hang on for 1 second.
But it's a further indication of the Democrats' slide to the left.
Chris, you wait, too, for 1 second, because I'm going to give you, I know you don't like the bill, and that's fine. But I want to know, is there anything in there good? I said we want to start with that, then we'll go to the pitfalls.
No, there really isn't. I mean, I could go through a point by point.
Then go ahead on and
why
criticize then. Go for it.
Okay.
You got the floor.
Well, it guts the First Amendment. But let me get to the point about exposing making transparent the donations to 503(c)(4). The reason why that was initially allowed for was to protect those people who wanted to support the civil rights movement in the Deep South. And whenever you had racist district attorneys hauling civil rights attorneys and civil rights organizations in to try and expose the donors to those organizations so that for reasons that they needed to be protected. So the reason why those protections are in place is because not always is support of a group that may stand up for the rights of certain minorities a positive thing. And so sometimes protections are important.
Thing? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No. The ability to keep those donations transparent is a positive thing. I mean, to keep them private, I'm sorry, is a positive thing. The point is if you want a good thing on it, I would say again, the good thing is it exposed the further slide of the Democratic Party to the left, and I think it becomes ultimately a campaign issue in the 2020 election for Republicans. So I don't think this is something that's going to be positive in any case.
So Capri, you just heard Chris say this thing is just bollocks. It's just horrible, and any attempts to make sure that everyone's vote counts and there's transparency and no hanky-panky at the polls is just not a good idea.
Well, obviously, I disagree with the fact. I mean, we do need to make sure that everyone's vote counts as long as they are indeed a citizen. I think that it is important to make it easier for people to vote, not harder. But obviously, we want to make sure that there isn't fraud. Now, let me say this. As a Democrat, I do have some concerns about a handful of things. I think that there is a legitimate argument about allowing tax dollars to support political campaigns. Public financing is not something that is unique. There are states and individual municipalities that do it, but I understand that argument. But, if you wanted to cap campaign finance contributions, you then end up getting into a First Amendment argument. So how do we figure out a way to get money out of politics? That's going to be a continued argument. I think that there are some issues when it comes to, for example, requiring basically everybody to register to vote. I do think it should be individuals' choice on whether or not they want to register to begin with. And so I do think that it's a mixed bag. I do think that it is a political play. I think it is one for Democrats to get on record about their priorities and to put Republicans on record saying that, basically trying to paint them as people that are not supportive of transparency and campaign finance and ethics. I don't think this is going to go anywhere. I think this is more of a political exercise.
Fair enough. You had some pros and cons. That's the way we like it. And we're just going to show some of the major provisions while I ask Chris to give me one final answer here. So if this is not the answer to improving the nation's election system, ridding it of exposure to fraud, making sure that every American vote counts, then what is the answer?
Well, I think we've moved in a certain direction toward the right answer. I mean, some of it is transparency, and I do agree that transparency in of itself is a good thing, but I think there are certain organizations that should be protected from that transparency for the reasons I pointed out. That was important, like I said, during the civil rights movement. But moving from a standpoint of counting every vote, yeah, that's absolutely essential. But what this bill doesn't do is protect against things like we saw happen in California with vote harvesting, or even what we saw happen in North Carolina, which we've had a new election cause in North Carolina 9. And those are the things that have to be protected.
Chris, I'm sorry to cut you off. Sorry, Capri. I've got to go hitting the computer. Capri Cafaro, Chris Wilson, thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Good debate, guys. Stay right here. We'll be back after this break.